That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, guys, welcome into the show. This is the BAM Pod, and I'm your host, Big Ed. And on the line, I've got Alex Niapas. And Alex is out here on the West Coast, and he is a swim bait specialist. He's one of the better ones out here on the West Coast. And you know what? It is swim bait season. So I thought, what a better time to bring him on the show, get this thing going, and, let's get some information from one of the best guys out there throwing it. So, Alex, welcome into the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome. How you guys doing?
So, him and I talked a little earlier, and he did something out here on the West Coast that's pretty big. He won one of the pro-ams for what is it?
Wild West.
Wild West. Man, I can't even get that out of my head anymore. For the Wild West out here on the West Coast, he won an event, and he did it in grand fashion. He did it with swim baits, It was back in 2019, so it is a little bit dated, but, the guy's been out here and he's been kicking out big fish on big swim baits for a long time now. And, we're here and we just want to talk to him, and maybe I'm going to get some tips out of him, techniques and styles and ways to do this, and the baits and everything that he uses. So, Alex, we'll talk a little bit about the Shasta event. So guys, people can kind of know what you did, you talked about, so let's talk about that and kind of get that up there get people up to speed if they don't know, what that was, because it was a big thing that it was a big win and in grand fashion you did it. So, because you won by quite a bit of weight, the second place wasn't that close.
Yeah, I was, go ahead.
Oh, I said, so yeah, go ahead and talk about a little bit about that event and how it kind of went,
Yeah, this was like our second time going up there. And the first year, me and my team partner, we were fishing the Wild West team event, and we had boat troubles. And, we weren't on the swim bait fish at that time, but the second time we went up there in 2019, pre-fishing, we were struggling, but, we were catching decent fish. And then we're in my partner's boat, and he goes, I don't know, you take the front. I see what you could find. So I went to this point I was looking at for a day or two, and I threw a hog hunter mag on it. And first cast, I caught a 5.5 to 6 pound spot. And this is something. Maybe we're onto something. And then, so we cut all the hooks off our baits and ran that arm, and we had like 30 or 40 bites. And right then and there, I kind of knew we were onto something special. And those fish at that lake had never seen that bait before.
Mm-hmm.
And and we ended up winning the team event. We had like 28 pounds, and come pro-am, between the pro-am and the team event, the water came up about 15, 20 feet. And it took me a little bit to figure them out. But on the first day, the last afternoon of the first day of practice, I figured them out and figured where they were at, where they relocated. And so from then there, I found some more spots on the second day of pro fishing, and tournament came by, and it was pretty great. Each day I could have caught 5 fish.
So all your fish now, did all your major fish come on swim baits?
Yeah.
And what was your big one for the tournament?
The tournament was the 13.5.
So, one day up there on Shasta, and this is, just to give everybody out there a point of reference. if you're not listening on the West Coast, Shasta's not really known for, kicking out a lot of fish, a lot of bigger fish. A winning, not a winning bag, but maybe you're going to get a check bag is 13 pounds. You will probably get a check with 5 fish, 13 pounds up there on that lake for a 1-day event. When you talk about having just one fish for 13 pounds, and that's pretty impressive out there.
Yeah.
Now you've got, what did you end up winning that event? What was the overall weight for that event? Pro-Am, what, three? It was 3 days? Yeah.
3 days. I believe they had 62 something. I forget exactly. I know I won over 25 pounds. Second place.
Right. Yeah, 25 pounds back was second place on a lake where, for 3 days, if you've got 15 pounds a day, you're probably doing pretty good. And you had another 15 pounds on. You basically fished 4 days for most everybody else. But it really shows that you stuck by this swim baits, and this was a focus because you really figured out how to use them and how to make them work. Now we're going to jump forward a little bit to 2022 now, and you're still catching fish on swim baits, and you're doing it consistently, and you have been since then. Recently you were out New Maloney's and you caught like a 14 pounder out there. Guys, people that are fishing that want to get into swim bait fishing, I'd love to talk about a little bit about breaking it down, I guess, in your mind, when is, hey, when's the best time to start fishing for, swim bait fish and looking for those big ones? Where's the best areas? What kind of terrain are you looking for? If we can break that down a little bit, and then we'll talk maybe some techniques and some styles and, which rods to use. Because the one thing about swim bait fishing is that it is extremely intimidating to a lot of people because of the baits. I mean, you're talking about, you were throwing a 9.5-inch bait, and the 14 pounder you got came on a 12-inch bait. That's something intense for a lot of people. Why don't you start us off with, like, when do you really start going, yep, it's time to get out there?
Usually in the fall, when the weather starts to change and gets colder. Sometimes that's in October.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to get really cold and almost freezing. But most lately, it's been past few years. It's been November. That's when you wanted to start throwing them. That's when the lakes are starting to turn over, and the bigger fish seem to be more shallow, and then the smaller fish are out super deep. And and then the trout this time of year, some of them will spawn, and that's a variable. And then fish and game, when they plant with the trout plants, that's another variable. That's really kickstarts it. That's when you get multiple bites doing that.
Now, are you looking for a specific water temperature, or is it just as it starts to cool?
Yeah, it's I've caught them between mid 60s, but once that water gets around 60 to 59, that's when everything kicks up, and it's usually it's going to happen then. That's when your best chance of catching them is when it drops below 60.
Okay, and then how long does that bite normally last? I mean, when is it like, all right, it's just time to put the swim bait down? It's not, you're not going to get, you're going to waste 90% of your day out there.
Yeah, for me, it's it goes all the way through the spawn and to post spawn, and then when you start getting those really hot days, I've seen it where it was really good in June, but but most of the time, somewhere around June or so, when it gets really hot, and they seem to go down a little deeper and suspend, and they're almost impossible to target.
Okay. Yeah, and that's one thing, people talk about the swim baits, and you're basically just swimming it, but are you, or can you target those fish with swim baits that are suspending at
Uh,
all?
it's very. I've had success over like deep islands
Mhm.
that the thermocliner is um, over. They'll be suspended over an island. They'll still hang around any tree, or there's a tree that's over 100 feet tall. It's usually that time in the summer, the thermocline's probably going to start around 50, and they'll hang around there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
possible, but it's pretty slim and none.
right.
And by
Now,
then, a lot of times they switch from trout to bluegill and whatever's available.
now do you switch up with that? Do you switch up to, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll throw a bluegill swim bait for a while instead of a trout one, or is that really
Yeah,
not?
yeah, I do. It's if I get if sometimes you'll find them, they're exclusively just feeding on bluegill, and then
Mhm.
um, um, you could use that like a bluegill glide bait. Uh, it's really productive.
Okay. And I think one of the other things I wanted to hit on is, you talked about um one of the baits that you use, but give me your top three that hey, if you're starting out, you want to get into swim bait fishing, you want to get out there and do it. What's the top three swim baits you would recommend people have in their box?
Okay. Number one, I would say the Hog Hunter Mag. That's
Yeah.
the 9.5 inch bait. And that's the most popular. Um, Second, the the Hog Hunter X Minnow.
Hmm.
That's a 7.5 inch bait, and it has multiple inserts of weight wise. So you could just buy one weight, and you could make it a fast sink. You can make it a slow sink.
Okay.
And that's always a good, that bait always gets bit from Clear Lake to Shasta to Maloney's. And then probably third, I would say a HUD or an S waiver.
Okay.
That'd be those three right there. You're gonna have, if you throw it long enough, you're gonna get bit and more than likely catch a fish.
Now, with most of those baits, do you pretty much just stick with the trout pattern? Or is
Yes.
there a variation in colors that you like to use?
No, I'm not. Trout pattern is ideal. Um,
Okay.
I've been sent different colors of trout and this and that, and I haven't seen a difference. As long as it's a trout pattern, it may just be me, but I'm confident with that.
Well, and that's probably a lot of it is the confidence that you're going into it. I mean, to pick up an 8 or a 9 inch or a 12-inch bait and throw it all day long, or a certain amount of time, anyways, you gotta have some kind of confidence going into that.
Yeah, and there's not one color that I could say, oh, you need to throw that, but
Mm-hmm.
I catch them on every color as long as it's a trout.
Okay, so I guess that one of the next things we really want to talk about with swim bait fishing is the equipment that you're going to need to buy and get out there, and what do you kind of recommend for I a lot of this is people that are out there going, I see it and I don't throw it and I want to know, so what do I buy, rod wise, line wise, are you throwing this thing on braid? Are what kind of reel? What's the speed of the reel? Because those are all big things that people don't get all the
Yeah.
time.
We have a process that we call simple price, simple process. And what that means is we take our lowest and best price and we post it on every single car There's no back and forth. And by simple process, what that means is when you meet somebody, they can handle every aspect of what you do in your card transaction buying experience from beginning to end.
Yeah. Well, rod wise, I throw the St. Croix,
Mhm.
the new grass swimbait rod. They have 3 different models. They have a light one, the 710,
Okay.
and they have a mid-range one in the 710. That's what I throw the mag exclusively on, and then they have an 8.6 extra heavy, and that's what I throw the Mag X, the 12-inch bait on. And then reels, you do not want a super fast swim bait reel. The most right now, they don't make many. I prefer the 5-to-1,
Okay.
but the last 10 years or so, they kind of gone away with that, and they make mostly 6-to-1. And there's not one brand I recommend really. I mean, the Shimano Franks is a really good reel, 300.
Okay.
And the Daiwas, they make very good reels, and those are. And it's up to you. They have all different handles. I kind of stay with the basic, too. Not that big power knob, but it's and to me, I don't think a 7-to-1 gear ratio is. It's hard to fish slow enough with that. That's possible with the 62, but ideally, I'd recommend a 5-to-1 if you can find it.
Okay.
And
So you
then
can find a 5-to-1 reel out there. You really want to. That's the slower the better, basically. Okay.
The slower the better. Yeah. And then as a line, I recommend 25-pound Seaguar and Vizex.
Okay.
When you're throwing the mag, if you're throwing the smaller, a HUD or a X minnow, I would recommend 20-pound or 17.
Okay. And
But,
you're just still sticking with fluorocarbon through all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Braid,
not many problems with it breaking off or anything?
no, not at all. Yeah, you just have to check your line. If you went over a rock or got snagged, you just always check the first couple feet of your line, and yeah, I haven't had. Very rarely do I ever snap one off.
Okay. Yeah, and then basically, I guess going from that is some of the rigging on it. I mean, these are big baits. Are you putting stingers on there? Are you, how is it that you fish this bait, I guess, in general? What is the overall techniques and styles that you like to fish to really get to entice some of these big bites you're getting?
Yeah. No, the stingers, you could use a stinger, especially on the Mag X. It's almost necessary. And it has the eyes everywhere. They have some on the side where you can put hooks, and then they got an eye behind the regular jig hook where you could run a braid stinger. And the biggest thing, if you're going to run a stinger, make sure your treble hook is a 2X strong.
Okay.
I recommend the Kamagatsu regular round bend 2X strong hooks. If you use a regular hook, you hook a big one, they're just gonna, tear that hook and bend it pretty fast.
Right.
I made that mistake years and years ago, and
so it basically just running now. I've had some people talk about don't run stingers because of this, but you will and do when you have those big baits like that. And I was going to say the other side of that is when you're running these things and you do have the stingers on there, are you pretty much always using braid? Are you using the wires? Are you How are you rigging those? How are you rigging those up?
Yeah, I'd use the braid, the heavier, 80 to 90 pound braid.
Okay.
And yeah, you just tie it to that little eye behind the jig hook, and the biggest thing is getting the length right. You'll spend a lot of time your first time trying to get it perfect.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a little tedious, but once you get it, it comes easy.
Okay. Yeah. So just figuring out the length on your trailer, making
Yeah.
sure and where do you want to position? Where's the place that you're like, you know what? This is where I usually position it. This is how I get that set up and that sort of thing.
Oh, so excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Yeah, anywhere between the top dorsal and what's that last fin called? Brain fart here.
On the very back, just the back fin of the fish. Okay.
Yeah. It's between the top
pectorals and all that.
Yeah, between the top dorsal and there's a back little fin on the bait. Anywhere between there is good.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect the action at all.
And does it matter which fish you're fishing for? Like some people have said, hey, if you got largemouth, you want to make sure it's on the top. If you're going for spots, you want to make sure it's on the bottom. If you're, one on the side.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I keep them all on the top.
Okay. That way you can still work it on the bottom if you want. And
you never, if you're, you never really want to hook on the bottom of a soft bait.
Okay.
That dives down.
Okay. And I guess, and then basically what are some of the techniques? Is there something special that really, or something that helps trigger those big bites when you're fishing for those fish?
It's just a lot of it's location.
Okay.
Wherever the big fish are, it's there's just you have to pattern them. To me, it's sometimes they're so aggressive, and you could just throw up on a point,
right,
and they'll run over there to eat it, and you're like, okay. My thing is when if I get bit, I was like, what is it on? Is there a rock there? Is there a stump there? Figure out what what fish holding. But sometimes if they're so aggressive, they'll swim 100 feet over to eat your bait, and sometimes that pre-fishing, that kind of during tournament, that leads you the wrong way. The biggest thing is just find out what kind of cover and structure they are on and run it.
Now, have you? I was going to say over the time that you've been fishing and really focusing on swim baits, have you found a structure that holds bigger fish more predominantly? Standing trees or big boulders, or has it just been like it's just kind of what they're on that day?
Yeah, it's kind of what they're on that day. Ideally, most of the big fish like trees, but sometimes they'll be up shallow on a stump, or sometimes they'll be on the rocks or over houseboats. It's under houseboats. Yeah, you just have to, and every day's different.
Okay, because it's one of those that I've been out fishing. And I'm a big fan of the Huddlestons. I've done very well on those. And some days it's throw it like a crankbait, where you're just you throw it up, let it hit the bottom, pick it up, and start swimming it. Just real slow, moving your handle, and bouncing it along and just covering water. And there, you just find that spot, boom, and you get bit. Other days it's like, no, you have to set up on the right structure. You got to set up on the right angle. You got to set up on the to get that one fish that is there and then is going to bite. Do you really find that a lot when you're searching for that one? Like, hey, I know there's a big fish here. Maybe you've seen him on your graph, or you've seen him on sonar, or forward facing sonar, or something, and you're like, God, I got to get him to get. How do you kind of approach that when that if you get in that position?
Yeah, it's it's hard to it depends on if I was pretty confident there's a fish there, I'll do multiple angles until I get bit, and sometimes you don't get bit.
Right.
And sometimes they're full and they're not really feeding, and especially around full moon, you could
right
be in the right place, but just the wrong time.
And it's for me, I think when I think about swim bait fishing, I'm going to go out there and do that. It's like, hey, I'm going to focus my day on just throwing big baits around and seeing if I can get that big fish. I've found that, I want to see there's some characteristics I want to see on the day. What have you found to be like the best days, weather-wise, as far as, hey, if you got a rainy day coming up, or you got a storm coming in, or a storm blowing out, or you got what's been that one, that one trigger that just says, yeah, this is, I'm going to head to the lake today because this is they should be munching.
Yeah. It's anytime, if you could get out before, a pre-front of a storm, it's always good. And then, usually around the new moon seems like it's consistent. You could always, have the opportunity at catching a swim bait fish. But, it's any storm, wind, you want to be out there.
Okay.
To have opportunity.
So that stuff doesn't really keep you off, because that's, honestly, I mean, I think people really see that, when they think about fishing or whatever. It's like, excuse me, the, you see a weather pattern coming in and it's like, I ain't going out there. It's going to be raining today, or it's going to be cold, or it's going to be wet, but you're out there, and that's what you're fishing, to catch these bigger fish. That kind of keys them in and gets them going. And, mostly it's because, hey, we're going to feed up. There's going to be a storm. We don't know how long this storm's going to last. They're just a fish, for F's sake, So, they just, all they know is there's a storm coming and we need to eat before we don't get to eat for the next 3 days. And that's important to tell, let people know. It's like, hey, that could be the best day. So if you got, if you've got a Saturday coming up and you got rain clouds coming in, you got a storm moving in, get on the water and start fishing. Right. I mean, that's going to be
any time. I mean, as long as it's not blowing, 50, 60 miles an hour or something like that. It's just, even the fishmen, they don't seem to bite as well, but yeah, the rain gear is so good right now, and the boots you got, and it's very comfortable to be out there and fishing. It's not near as bad.
It's not near as bad as when you're standing out there in your yellow slickers, right?
Yeah, exactly. You could fish all day pretty much. Your hands might get cold, but it's that's nothing.
So let's
it might catch his breath.
Now let's talk a little bit about you went out to New Maloney's and caught, was it a 14.5 or something like that?
14 and a half, yeah.
14 and a half, yeah. So you go out, you catch this 14 and a half. When you talk about big swim bait lakes, and there's lakes all over the country where they have trout in them, or they have bluegill in them, or they whatever it is, that you can go. But what are your favorite lakes for catching, big swim bait fish? Do you like grassy lakes? Do you like, the deltas, the things like that, or do you like lakes that are, more wide open? Because lakes like New Maloney's, Shasta, Folsom, blah blah blah, all these are all pretty wide open lakes. Not much grass, not much anything else. What really keys you in on, says, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go to that lake and fish for them.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best. If somebody's ever caught a bass on something and perfected the technique, we got you covered. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning. I'm Gerald Swindle. Subscribe to Bass U.
Yeah, Maloney's is probably my favorite as far as catching big ones. There's just a lot of big ones in that lake. It's super deep, has a lot of structure, and loaded with cover with brush and standing timber and rock piles. That, to me, Maloney's is number one. And then Pollock, which is right below Maloney's. That lake is, it seems like it dictates when the trout plant. Whenever they're planting trout.
Okay. And what was the name of that one?
Pollock.
Oh, Pollock. Okay.
That lake is, to me, that's my second. You're not going to catch a giant out of there, but it's loaded with, I'd say 5 to 10 pounders.
Wow.
You can get multiple bites. It's one of those lakes, and if you figure it out, you got it dialed. You're going to catch more than one.
Right.
It's a couple of years ago, me and my team partner had a team event there, and between both of us, we caught 15 fish. Actually, we caught 15 each. We caught 30 swimbait fish in a tournament. We had like 33.98, and our biggest fish was a 7-pounder, and it was just one of those great days.
Wow.
All day we caught swimbait fish. So yeah, and then it's and that lake is loaded with grass too, and that could be problematic throwing the sinking soft plastic bait.
Okay.
But once you figure out where they're at and what rate of fall you want, they're either going to be inside the grass or outside, and kind of have to figure that out.
Now, do you have a favorite rate of fall that you usually use? Like I said, I'm trying to get people that are just getting into this or wanting to get into this. It's like, what is that sink rate that you really want?
Yeah, it varies in the time of year. The winter time, I want the heaviest bait possible, the fastest sink. And as the spring comes along, pre-spawn and spawn, I want the lightest. I want it to be nice and subtle, and so you could, because most of the time those fish are up on the water column suspended, around trees or rocks. So you want a nice, subtle, slow sinking. Okay,
so early in the year, before the spawn comes, you want something that's going to get down to the bottom. So is that really where you're trying to fish the most? Is during that time of year, is you're getting down, you're getting on the bottom? Are you dragging that bait, or are you just swimming it to where it's just ticking off the bottom? What is that doing?
It doesn't really. I like it, so most of the time you're fishing a little deeper water, that 20-foot range, and
right.
You want it to be close as the bottom as possible, and you don't waste time, casting out and letting that thing hit the bottom.
Yeah, you don't want to take an ROF 5 or something and throw it out in 20 feet of water and wait.
Yeah, yeah, it's just my preference, and then it stays too close to the bottom, longer. But
Is
I
that
mean, you
now?
can still catch them.
Are you dragging that bait, or are you just swimming it?
No,
Just barely
I'm
swimming?
just swimming it. I'm
Okay.
swimming it.
Okay, so you're not. So you're just keeping it. You're just keeping it close to the bottom as long as you can. And those
Yeah.
fish are they're just what, like pinning it down as they hit it, or
Yeah, they just come. If they're gonna eat it, they just come up and engulf it.
okay.
Sometimes they'll come up and eat it from the front and engulf it, and that can be hard to hook them. But ideally, when they come up behind it and eat it, it's you're gonna catch them.
Now, how many of those a day do you lose?
The baits?
Yeah.
None anymore.
No.
You always want to have a lure retriever with you,
Okay.
a lure knocker. That's a must if throwing these baits. Always have that in your boat. You just take an old, broken rod, an old reel, and then put some heavy braid on it.
Okay.
And yeah, and
Now,
keep it in your rod locker, and when you need it.
knock that thing out of there.
Yeah.
One of the other things I know, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, but these guys are, there's people out there that are going out to buy a swim bait and they're looking down going, okay, this thing's $25, $80, $60, $40, $120. Why am I not throwing this on 110-pound braid? I mean, why? I want this thing back. I want this thing back. Why are you telling me to throw it on 20-pound fluorocarbon, and not 80-pound braid?
Yeah. Well, the braid, for one, the fish will see it, and you're probably not going to get any bites on it. I mean, I'm sure you'll catch a fish here and there, but you're going to get less bites on the fishing fluorocarbon rather than fluorocarbon. And then another thing is with those heavy baits, you know how braid is. Sometimes it digs in. You end up going to losing it anyway. So
right.
Casting, I've done that. When I first started swim bait fishing, I'm just going to throw braid. And casting, that braid will dig in, and then it'll,
I was saying what I found was that there's a lot of Huddlestons laying at the bottom of Shasta that are mine, because I started off doing the same thing with braid, and I would throw it, and if I backlashed a little bit, it would snap, pop, and it's like, oh, nice distance. That's all you get out of it.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I stopped fishing braid and went over. I fish it on mono a lot of times just because I get that big fish on there and I want the stretch. I want him to, make his run, do his thing. And it's like, let him run. He ain't gonna go anywhere with, I throw 20-pound big game on there, and I haven't lost a fish. I've got quite a few big ones myself, and it's like, that seems to work great.
Yeah, it's just my preference,
right.
fluorocarbon. It just, you could feel the bottom. You could feel, if you go over a log, it's more sensitive. Sometimes these fish will come up and just engulf it, and you don't feel that, big thump or anything. You'll feel a tick, and then you're like, whoa, what was that?
Right.
And with the fluorocarbon, you could detect it more, and I think you get a few more bites on the fluorocarbon being invisible, but or more invisible.
Right. That's a really good point too. Is a lot of times you feel, all you feel with these these big bait, you're throwing a 12-inch bait. This thing should just be, you're thinking it's going to be just destroyed. 8-inch bait, 12-inch.
Yeah.
They're just going to destroy it. But that's not really how the bite normally happens. For me, I've always, it's just been like a worm bite, like just tick and set the hook.
Yeah.
When you do get that bite, one of the things that I found a long time ago was that, guys, and I've watched it happen, guys will set the hook over their shoulder and try to get that big hook set into it and then lose that fish.
Yeah.
Have you found that that's more of the truth that there's a better way? Is there a better way to set the hook to get those fish in, to keep those fish in? And do you fight these fish much, once you have them on?
No, I keep my drag locked. Is with that 25-pound seagar, if you set the hook and hook up on him, he's not going to, I don't think there's a fish that's going to break it off that swims out there, unless you have some defective in your line.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of I don't set straight up. Set maybe, I don't know, let me look at it. Maybe like a 40-degree angle,
Yeah.
And you always want to set across your body. If you're left-handed,
Right.
Or if you're reeling with your left, you want to set across your body to your left side. And
Right.
if you reel on the right, you set it across at a slight bit angle, and you pick up more line, and you get a better hook set doing that.
And then you just keep turning, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
not.
You keep cranking. Yeah, you keep cranking. And once you hook them, if you keep them down and cranking straight to the boat, your odds are catching them are a lot better.
Yeah. Now a little bit back to where we were with the lakes too, is now you've named 2 lakes so far that probably most people haven't really heard about, I mean, across the country, across whatever, but you haven't mentioned some of our big, our notoriously big fish waters, like the Delta and Clear Lake and, things like that. Is it just because you don't like to drive that far with current gas from California, or is it that you feel like there's a better bite in some of these lakes like that?
It depends on what you want to kind of fish you want to target. You want to get multiple bites of 4 to 8 pounders. I would recommend go to Clear Lake.
Right.
Not right now, but historically, yeah. The bite's horrible there right now, but yeah, and that's when the X minnow that looks identically to a hitch.
Okay.
That's what it was made for. It was actually made for Clear Lake with the hitch, and you're going to get a lot of bites doing that. But your odds of catching a keener are pretty slim. I mean, it's if you're really trying to catch a trophy bass, I recommend fishing up in the motherlode lakes, like Maloney's and Pedro and Comanche. That's another lake.
Yeah. I was going to say, you touched on Pedro there for a minute. Pedro. And that's a lake that I hear a lot about of really consistently better quality fish coming out of. Is that another one over there that you really focus on, the Swimbait style over there?
Yeah, I fish a lot of tournaments there. I don't go out of my way. It's like a 45-minute drive for me. Maloney's is 15, but yeah, in years past, the last few years, Pedro's been kind of going a little south, the bite-wise, Swimbait bite. I haven't been catching near as many as I used to, but it's another lake. When it's on, it could be fun. You could have multiple opportunities.
I was going to say, get into some big, double-digit fish. I guess that's probably the thing that most people are thinking about when they think about Swimbait fishing. It's like, hey, I want to catch double digits, and
yeah,
that's going to. I don't want to say it's
Well,
going to give you your best odds of it, but it's going to give you a great opportunity if you stick with it to catch that double
Yeah.
digit fish. How many double
Yeah.
digits do you have?
You know, honestly, I kind of not sure exactly. I never really counted.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Oh, I got 6 over 15 pounds. That's
You got 6 over 15 pounds so far,
yeah. So far, that's the one I know.
and all of
And
those,
then,
and all of those are in the Motherlode Lakes.
correct.
Wow.
One at Pedro, one at Lake McClure, was
Mhm.
16 and a half, and then the 4 at Maloney.
Have most of those come in the winter? Winter to spring, I guess.
Yeah. All of
Okay.
them.
So it's safe to say that the best time of the year to maybe get out there would be somewhere in that March, April time.
Bass Angler Magazine is your guide to better bass fishing. Bass Angler is dedicated to helping you catch more and bigger bass no matter what time of year or where you live. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. Every issue is jam-packed with 30-plus articles from the world's best bass anglers. Bass Angler Magazine is available at bassanglermag.com, Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, Walmart, and better tackle shops everywhere. Bass Angler also makes a great gift for any angler. Get Bass Angler today and start catching more bass tomorrow. Visit bassanglermag.com or your favorite tackle shop. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. bassanglermag.com.
No, the best time, it's actually it just depends, but you can catch some giants in that November,
Mhm.
early December, and then it seems to tail off a little bit, in that early part of late December and January, and then for some reason around February, that first week of February, the bite kicks on again. That's just my observations, but for some reason that first week of February, something I've just noticed in the years past is everybody's catching big fish. I'm catching big fish, and
Yeah.
then it goes all the way till until they're gonna start thinking about getting on beds and spawning.
Yeah. And then you're just then you're kind of on something else.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned back in there was an S waiver. Tell me a little bit about the difference between throwing the regular swim bait and throwing the glide baits, because they've become very popular. So many different styles, so many different techniques out there, or ways to throw this thing. But when you're talking about one of the standards in the S waiver and these glide baits in general, how much difference is it in the way you fish them compared to your hog hunter style?
Yeah,
Is it a big difference?
Yeah, it's a big difference. You tend to fish. I tend to fish the glide baits, down to maybe 3 or 4 feet at most, at the deepest, and then sometimes up on the surface. With the S waiver, you're going to catch, when it's fish are biting, you're going to catch a lot more fish, but they're going to be smaller on average. You're not going to. I mean, you can, but it's possible. But your odds of catching, a teener on an S waiver are significantly lower than more realistic like a hog hunter mag bait.
Okay.
But yeah, it's you could rate. There's so many variables. You could add weights to them and fish them a little faster. But tournament time, I usually stick to the mag, the soft bait that sink.
Right.
You get a lot of followers with the S waivers, the glide baits and whatnot. But free fishing, I throw a lot of glide baits just to see, locate fish. That helps me find fish, and then
See if something will come out, chase it, give away its position. then you go back
Yeah.
through that area and go, okay, now that that's a good question, I guess, there, right? Is how long, afterwards, after, you go through, let's say you do go through an S waiver or bull shad or one of these, big topical, as glide baits, and it's like, oh shoot, that was a 7 or 8 pounder that just came out of there. I'll bet I could get him on that mag. How long do you usually let that fish get settled back to where he's going to be set at, where hey, that's where he's going to be right there?
Yeah, usually like 20 minutes, half an hour, ideally. There's a lot of studies that, they have memory up to 20 minutes. But it could be 5 minutes sometimes, sometimes you don't have the time to wait 30 minutes and the end of the day.
Yeah. Especially in a tournament situation, you don't have that. You're hoping that fish gets back over there, and maybe didn't see the boat, or maybe didn't see, what he was actually doing. He just came out to check something out. I've heard a lot of guys that say when you get into the grass lakes, throwing the S waiver style, the glide baits is a little more, a little better for catching big fish. Just because you can keep it above the grass and that sort of thing. If you're dealing with shallow water, so if we're talking, places across the country, that you've got shallow water and you've got, where they're only fishing in 5, 6, 8 feet of water, throwing a swim bait compared to throwing, compared to an S waiver, or the different types of swim baits, you've got the tails, you got the, I don't know, I don't even know all the names of the different tails that are out there for these, these swim baits. Most of, I think like the Huddleston's what, a boot tail, or no, that's the Huddleston is the, I don't know what, the thumper tail or something. I can't remember what they call them. But what do you, is there one that you just, hey, as this comes on, you want to throw this style, this comes on, as it gets warmer, as it does it, is there different styles and ways to fish them, where they make sense? Or are you just strictly, what, I like to throw this and that's what I throw?
Yeah, it's, I know times at Clear Lake, at night, that Huddleston seemed to outperform the hog hunter.
Right.
And, because it has a little more wide action and swings a little more, but that's pretty rare. I mean, if you're in clear water, to me, the hog hunter mag has that more subtle kick, and he'll catch more on the hog hunter. But there are times, in dirtier water that the Huddleston style tail will, it does work.
And where do you kind of stand when it comes to, like I said, with the shallow water fisheries, and, like I said, we're kind of talking to people all across the country here, and they're the hog hunters are great baits and they're going to be there, but they're also, that's a 12-inch bait. They're throwing it, what do you kind of look at, if you're throwing in shallow water, you're throwing at the Delta, you're throwing at Clear Lake, these shallow water lakes, do you still stick with that hog hunter and
it
and
depends.
Just fish it a little shallower, I guess?
Yeah. It depends on the, sometimes Clear Lake has a bunch of grass in it, and that's when I would probably go to more weedless bait, like a trash fish.
Okay.
And that seems to, that you're not, picking off grass every cast, and more effective. But
now that's an interesting bait that you just, you said right there, the trash fish, because that's one that I hear of a lot of people, winning tournaments with that thing, as maybe just as part of the arsenal, but they do well with it. How is it that you fish that thing, when you're out there? Is it the same? Is swim bait fishing pretty much all the same consistent? Like, hey, you know what, you throw that thing out, let it hit the bottom and just reel it down literally through the grass, through all that stuff and everything?
Yeah, pretty much. It's, you know, I mean, there's some times where speeding it up out of the blue will get you a bite, especially if you know, sometimes you'll get bites, especially this is at Clear Lake, mostly.
Right.
You'll get bite, you'll feel a little tick or inspection bite and nothing. And then if you spin the reel, you know, faster, that'll just make the fish commit to it.
Just gives it a little bit more of a trigger, gives it that little bit more
Trigger,
of a right
some kind of reaction out of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I guess we're kind of looking, you know, we're pushing up against our hour here, but I'm trying to get as much, you know, for everybody out there, you know, on swim bait fishing and how to go about it. You know, and I think we've covered quite a bit of this here. Is there anything else that you really feel like, hey, if you're going to go out and you want to start swim bait fishing, this is what I would, you know, really touch on or get into?
Yeah. One of the things, the new swim bait rod St. Croix came out with the grass pistol handle.
Mm-hmm.
It has a pistol grip handle, and it keeps your wrist in a natural motion, and you don't have any fatigue on your wrist.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting rod. I haven't seen a pistol grip in quite a long time. And it's how long is that rod?
Actually, they have 2 different lengths and 3 different actions. 710.
Okay.
Is good. They have a light in that, and a medium size, and they have the 8.6.
Okay.
And it's literally a pistol grip under the real seat, and like you actually shooting a pistol
right
in your hand. But yeah, at first I was kind of not sure about this, so I guess it's gonna work, and I wasn't sure about setting the hook and casting it, and yeah, there was no issues with that. But,
yeah, that's definitely those would probably be the questions I would ask about that if I was looking at it. Is I'm going to take this rod and I'm going to throw big 8, 9, 10 inch, 12 inch swim baits on it.
Yep.
It seems to work.
It handles them very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of, when I seen it, I wasn't. I don't know. This is, I guess it'll, it would help your wrist, but
right
after using it for probably 10 or 12 trips now, it is a very good rod.
Okay. Well, we'll have to check that one out.
I don't have
there.
the fatigue. Yeah. But, yeah, I caught that 14.5 on it, and
wow.
Last week I caught a 13.9 at Don Pedro on it. So it handles the big fish very well.
All right. Well, with us we're coming up here on the end, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We've talked about some of the many big fish you've caught, which is awesome and all that. Is there, do you have, ways for people out there if they want to, follow you, watch you, see you, or wherever you're at, or yeah, I don't know if you guide or not, or.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the process of getting all the licenses and insurance to be a guide. So, and then, I got Instagram, just Alex Niapas, and Facebook.
Okay.
There.
On Facebook. So Facebook and Instagram right now. You got a website coming up soon, or you got anything?
No, I do not. No, I haven't thought about that, but yeah.
Once you get out there and you're once you get out there and you're guiding, you're making all that money, you can get a website.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, we're kind of at our time now. I got to cut it off, but thank you for one, spending your time here, and two is just all the information. It's great to hear. It's hard for people to kind of wrap their head around swim bait fishing sometimes.
Yeah.
It's that time of year right now. It's coming up. We got, it's going to be one of those things out there. I hope this really helps a lot of people. So thank you very much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys are out there and you want to come up to the mother load, get on his Facebook, get on his Instagram, and just, check it out with him and keep in touch. And that way, when he does start guiding, if you want to get into some of these big old fish, he'll be the one to be able to put you on them. So thanks for tuning in the show. We'll get this one up, and hope everybody enjoys it. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. And this is Big Ed saying thanks again. All right, guys.